Hello everybody, this is Monoyasha from Dream Vision Creations, and I am here to show you the most recent project I finished as a custom commission that I did on the side, and essentially it's a cosplay character skull of Elias Ainsworth from the ancient Magnus bride. I didn't even know this initially when I took on the project, honestly. I just had a couple screenshot pictures and manga pictures, and I had no idea what the character was, but pretty much what the customer requested is that I take one of my canine skulls and I completely resculpt it so it looks like the character. So this is actually our skull canine head, cut and hinged with the V hinge, and then we have a set of Corsican ram horns, which were dyed brown. The actual resin itself is brown, so this is completely brown all the way through. Slush cast and hollowed to keep it nice and lightweight. You can still do the rigid foam and put that inside the horns too, but I decided to go with the triple layer of resin instead. Whew, okay, so I'll go over all the details because there are a lot on this thing. We'll start with the fact that this is actually built up on the skull. This is all the Ava foam, which is usually the exercise mat, puzzle mat material that you find at Lowe's, Home Depot, or sometimes Walmart. But I pretty much hot glued that onto the skull itself and shaped it using my X-Acto knife and box cutters in order to get the right shape, and then used my Dremel sanding bit drum, I believe, in order to smooth and sand it out. And this was applied for the brow area. This is actually a piece of foamies, I think 6mm thick. I'm not exactly sure, don't quote me on that. And then also right here is the thicker exercise mat material to build up this kind of like jawline here. The bottom jaw really wasn't touched. I didn't have to do any editing to that due to the design of the character. It was just a canine jaw in the lower half. However, the customer has a 24-inch head, and usually my skulls are designed for 22 to 23 inch. So the initial skull is actually only to about here, and normally it goes back this distance. I had to cut that out in order to make it so I can apply more room on top. And for me to do that, I actually used a lot of worbla on this cosplay creature in order to, like you see, this is actually plastic. This is the worbla covering all of the soft foam that I have, and I created a pattern to make the skull dome here out of foamies and heat shaped it, glued them together. This is actually, I see, one piece here, two pieces here. There's a couple little notches that were in it. You can't tell because of all the sanding I did. And this back here is actually a plate that lifts up. Turn this around. So it makes it easier for the wearer to get into the back of the head because they actually wanted the skull to be extended. There we go, it's in place. So they wanted the skull to be extended because my skull stopped here. My initial plan was to do a divider here and have flaps just kind of come up with the worbla. It ended up not working. So I ended up having to completely replace this panel and redo it, redesign it. And now it's more like a trunk hatch. I have Velcro pieces on the underside, and then there's elastic on the top two areas here that are attached. So it creates a little hinge. So you can actually lift this up, and I got 2-inch elastic that's pretty much helps support it on your head. And this right here is kind of a guiding elastic line, so you can pull it down more if you need to, but it helps keep everything in place. And you can see the elastic on the top there. That's the worbla, what the original worbla looks like. So it's like a tan color. And then here's the Velcro straps that are sewn onto nylon. Which I got the idea from Chinbeard from Punished Props. He does a lot of armor work and cosplay weapons and things like that. So that was very, very helpful to look at his tutorials on using buckles and Velcro and all that kind of crazy stuff in order to keep armor cosplay things on your body. Which is cool because I probably would just use the Velcro and not been very happy with it because I never could seem to get the Velcro to stick properly with glues. So it's cool having it on nylon because it sticks amazingly well. So yay to that. As you can see here, this is the battery pack. The customer will be actually applying this to the neck hood, which would be attached to the skull here, and just make a little harness for it. It's just little 2 AAA batteries, on-off switch, very simple. back to the front here. So, with all the building up and all the worbla, worbla has a texture on its own. It doesn't matter how much you try to get it smooth, it will have a texture. And I didn't realize that I should have probably applied 2 layers instead of 1. So when I applied my layers, it got kind of rough, which was a neat texture, but not what I was going for. I wanted everything to be smoothed out, and you couldn't see the transition between what I added and what the original skull was, and the original skull smooth. So I ended up adding a whole bunch of layers. I think it was like about 5 layers of gesso, really high quality thick stuff that you get from Hobby Lobby or Michael's. But about 5 layers, and used 400 grit wet sanding paper. So I actually dabbed it in water and then gently sanded it, which pretty much turned the paint back into a plaster and helped me smooth it out, fill in all the gaps, and turned out amazingly well. I'm really, really happy with it, and this really helps kind of encourage me to try to do more stuff like this in the future. So the next things I did was the teeth were very humanistic on the character, so the original canine teeth were not going to work. So I pretty much took my dremel, sanded it down to nothing, and re-sculpted the teeth using epoxy sculpt. And I won't have to worry about them chipping, breaking, or anything, because that stuff is really, really strong. And then everything, of course, painted with base coat, primer, and then I sealed it with a very light coating of gloss, Krylon gloss spray paint. Yeah. The tongue here is actually our thin point dragon tongue, I believe. And it just fit perfectly into the bottom skull, so I was able just to glue that in there with plumbing goop and let it sit overnight with clamps on it. So it's in there. It's not going to go anywhere. And it's kind of floppy, which is cool. And of course I made a custom chin guard here. So with the customers wearing this out of worbla, and lined it with foamies. So it's super, super comfortable and just perfectly sits your chin right in there. I also cut out the nose area. Usually this is all textured and detailed, but I decided to cut it out, and there's actually like yarn mesh material back there, and then I have another layer of kind of a screen material behind that, so it, from a distance, it completely blacks it out, but it allows for additional airflow for the customer. And we get onto the eye area. This is a combination of 2 things. I have chiffon fabric, which is a very lightweight sheer fabric, lining the inside here, and then I have a kind of spandexy nylon material behind it. It's got very fine holes into it, but it's a little bit larger than what the chiffon is, and it makes a perfect coating, but you can see really well through the mask. But when you look into it, it's completely blacked out, and it works perfect for the skulls. The eyes are actually just a pair of our double red LED kits that we offer. The only difference is that I actually put galvanized wire. You can't, let's see if I can get up close here. You can barely see it. Right there is where the LED wire comes out, as well as a galvanized wire is in there with the heat shrink. And it goes all the way to the LED, which is sticking out the very back of the eye. And the LED is embedded in plastimake, which is essentially another name for friendly plastic, which is little tiny beads of plastic that you put into hot water, and then you can shape them. And when they are hot, they are completely clear, and when they cure/cool, they turn this nice, beautiful frosty white. I was able just to mold that right onto the LED, so it's not going to ever go anywhere. And it just diffuses the LEDs perfectly. And then with the wire in there, I was able to position them so it looks like they're free-floating within the big area of the eye, essentially. You can only see it sometimes, like the light hits it a little bit, but again, you have to be, within, I think I'm about maybe less than a foot from the skull. But when you get back here, you can't see it, and that's about 2 feet away from the skull, which I wouldn't expect anybody to be right up on your face like that. But yeah, I mean, this is the complete costume now, so I'm going to be sending it off to the customer, sending pictures, and verify that they're happy with it, and hopefully I will see some pictures of the finished product, because that made me very, very happy. Because he's got some really cool like clothing that goes with him, and then having that really neat purple spandex on the neck, and then a drapery in the back, so I hope to be uploading more videos and more cosplays. I apologize for my absence for the past couple years, but I've just been focusing on the business and slacking on updating stuff. So again, yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting me, and I will continue to upload more awesome things.